It's time for Wise Money with Korhorn Financial Group with certified financial planners Kevin Korhorn, Mike Bernard, and Josh Gregory.
Welcome to another episode of the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group, where every week we're helping you take your next wise step in your financial life. Thanks for being here, friends. My name is Mike Bernard. I'm your host. I'm also one of the certified financial planners on the program. And with me in the KFG studio is Kevin Korhorn and special guest Ben DeBach.
While a foundation to everyone's retirement, Social Security can be tricky to navigate and understand. Now, this confusion can lead to errant planning, costly claiming mistakes, and a great deal of frustration. To help, we're going to answer the 10 most common Social Security questions and more on this episode of the Wise Money Show.
That's right. Impacts just about everyone. Social Security, whether you think it's going to be a big part of your retirement planning, or maybe just a small piece, you need to understand how it works. It should be simple. It's not. We're going to help you with that right now. Every episode of the Wise Money Show is on YouTube as well as podcast. Make sure you stay up to date on all Wise Money content. Find us online, wisemoneyshow.com as well. Hey, Ben, thanks for being here. It's the first time on the show.
Yeah, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Ben's been one of our all-star CFPs on the team, doing all sorts of stuff for almost a decade now. Kevin, do you want to talk about before Ben started at KFG?
I've been babysitting him here at KFG for almost 10 years, but going all the way back, I was good friends with Ben's parents, and I did get to babysit him. I don't think he was even a year old. And so we went way, way, way back. And then when Ben was considering changing careers, he was a teacher, and he was saying, I think I might want to teach something else to a different group of students. And he came and is perfect for the job.
That's right.
Appreciate that. Yeah, it's been a great ride here, and we're excited for what's to come and excited to talk a lot about Social Security today.
Yeah, that's one of Ben's specialties is Social Security. So when we were teeing up the topic of 10 most common Social Security questions, we thought, well, who better to join us on the show? Social Security obviously is heading towards insolvency. We're going to explain a little bit more of what that means and the odds of that happening. And will Social Security go away? That's one of the 10 common questions. But we're going to go sort of in a, I don't know, and I would say not a particular order, but not a random order either. And start small and build from there. So first question is, when can I collect Social Security benefits? And while you might say, I already know that for sure, still there are a lot of people, was in an argument even just recently with the doctor about, well, Social Security, you can start that at 65. And that's not necessarily true. You could start at 65, but when can you start Social Security?
So I've got an interesting answer here. I'm going to say the answer is 0. You can start drawing Social Security at 0 years old.
Wow.
Oh,
okay.
My goodness.
This is a twist on your question here, because most of the time we're talking about retirement benefits, which is somewhere between 62 and 70. But there are other benefits out there, including survivor benefits, and some of these they kind of fall off the radar. They're not thought about as much. But kids whose parents have passed away, there's an opportunity there for you to be getting Social Security benefits as young as an infant.
Yeah, if you look, it's OASDI, which is old age. So if I hit 62, or if I'm a survivor, if I hit 60, if I hit
You're not going to break out in song. I thought for sure, Kevin. You must not be feeling well today.
No, Mike, I am a survivor, but if you're so funny. So old age, survivor, which means one or a parent dies, and so you have dependent children, or you're a grandparent and you're claiming, and you have dependent children at home. Mm-hmm. So, and then there's DI, which is disability income. So to Ben's point, and that's a curveball out of left field, and I'm sure that baseball analogy is falling down, but that is true. Yeah. I can start claiming Social Security at 0.
Yeah.
If one of my parents was qualified for Social Security and is no longer living.
I mean, this is the thing, right? Social Security, it's a foundation to your retirement, whether you think it's going to be a big piece or a small piece, and it should be simple, and you likely think it's simple. It's more complicated than you expect. For retirement benefits, going back to the simple side of it, it's typically 62 to 70. The most common claiming age is 62. But we would say that as the most common claiming time is as soon as you can. And for many people, it's, well, I've already stopped working before age 62, or I'm going to retire right at 62 and I'll turn Social Security on right away. Or as soon as I'm done working, I'm going to turn Social Security on right away. No, that is not one size fits all. You need to optimize Social Security. That's the phrase. You need to optimize Social Security. How do you do that? You proactively work with your certified financial planner, build out your 5-factor retirement plan, and then stress test your Social Security decisions. Just did a Next Wise Step video on the YouTube channel, sort of comparing some options and showing some of our planning strategies and tools. Could be a $600,000 or more decision over your lifetime, whether you choose to draw Social Security at one age versus another.
So the Inbox Zero people that just heard you say that, Mike, are now freaking out because they're wondering if they are already on Social Security, did I make the right decision? And they're concerned about that. And if they haven't yet claimed, they're worried about claiming at the right time. And I would encourage people, you will only know for sure if you claimed at the right time after you're gone. Mm-hmm. So it's not knowable when is the right time or the right age, but it is interesting how these different times and ages does impact people's behavior. Because I've seen situations where someone's spouse has died, they've identified the next person they kind of want to do life with, but they're not getting married because if they get married, they can't draw Social Security at 60.
We'll get to each of those points. So.
That's what I'm talking about, Mike.
All right, question number 2. How is Social Security calculated? And even if you knew the answer to the first one and weren't expecting how Ben was going to answer it, not many people know the answer to this one. How is Social Security calculated?
Yeah, so this one's really fascinating. So we're taking your 35 highest years of earning, and you go, well, what if I only worked for 30 years? Well, then they actually put a couple zeros in there, and we're indexing that over for inflation, which means, hey, if I look back and my earnings in the 80s, my very first year of income, I worked at Gregory's Asparagus Farm picking asparagus, earned, if you look at my Social Security history, $296. Bruce and Colleen, what are we doing here? That feels like child labor issues there, but
you're overpaid.
Yeah, exactly. But what we're doing is we're taking that number and saying, hey, we're going to multiply that by something to kind of get it into today's dollars, right? We're gonna make that number make sense for today. We do that with every single year. There's a multiplier. We take those 35 years, get your average index monthly earnings, and then we use that to get what's called your PIA, primary insurance amount. There's no quiz on this. You don't have to remember all this, but that PIA is really fascinating. What a lot of people don't know is it's built out of different what we call bend points, meaning if you had very little income over most of your life, Social Security is actually going to replace a larger amount of what you earned.
Yep.
Is like, I would say that again because that is key to understand.
Yeah, so it's if you earned less than approximately $14,000 a year, which is, we'll call that poverty, right? That's the poverty line. Social Security is going to replace 90% of what you actually made in your lifetime on a yearly average. After that, it drops down to the 32%. So we're going from replacing most of your income to, if you're making closer to around $85,000, okay, it's only going to replace less than a third after that. And then all the way up after that, it's only 15%. So you're getting a lot less bang for your buck the more money that you made, which makes sense. Social Security was built to help keep people out of poverty, right? Utter poverty. And so it's really beneficial on the lower side and less beneficial as we go up.
Also want to go back to what Ben said about if you don't have 35 years of work history, then it's not that, well, we just take your existing work history and divide it by a smaller number to come up with the average. No, they fill in zeros. And so for those of you that are looking at retiring early, and there's a plan for you. So work with your CFP, build that out, do that 5-factor retirement planning. But just know that if you're looking at your Social Security assumptions or data online or from your statement, but you're going to work or retire sooner, those Social Security numbers are calculated on you continuing to work, right? And so you might see a slightly reduced benefit. As we've worked with folks, it's not like it drops off a cliff if you retire at 57 and therefore you don't work the last 5 years until 62. It's not like the assumptions are way off, but it will change things. So you need to be aware of that. That's where, again, we're going to encourage you. You got to be doing the planning work, that proactive analysis and planning work with your certified financial planner. All right, we've got more of the most common Social Security questions answered. That and more coming up on the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. Hello, YouTube. Thanks for being here. This is the Wise Money Show. What you're watching right now is our weekly 1-hour talk show that airs right here on this channel, 10 a.m. Eastern Time every Saturday morning, and also on podcasts at the same time, and also on a couple of local radio stations at the same time as well, which is why the content's broken up the way that it is and has segments and breaks and all that. But the good news is we've got Next Wise Step videos that air right here on this channel every single day of the work week. We're taking one financial concept, applying it directly to your financial life. I'm assuming we've done some of these questions and answers about Social Security before. Likely, if you're facing a financial question or issue, we've created some helpful content for you right here on this channel. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications so you're right aware every time we drop new content. If you like the content, Thank you very much. All right.
So one of the questions a lot of times, if you have a couple that own a business and they're when you're determining what's a reasonable salary.
That's exactly what I had written down next.
Okay. I think you got to hit that because what most people are under the assumption of is, hey, I've got to get my income up so I can get my Social Security amount up, and I think that'd be great to hit.
Remember when we were doing our math to say how many do we need to hit in each segment to get to 10?
Mike said 2. 10 divided by 4
and
is
now,
2.
And you're trying to push it to 1.5, Kevin. All right, so we'll hit that, and then we'll jump into the third question.
I was trying to jump ahead and answer some of those questions, so when we got there, it won't take as long.
This is why I left teaching math. We get to round here.
All right. Okay, here we go. One of the biggest Social Security questions out there is can I continue to work, maybe work part-time, and still claim Social Security? We're helping answer that question in the 10 most common Social Security questions right now. This is the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. Thanks for being here. My name is Mike Bernard. With me in the KFG studios, Kevin Korhorn, special guest, financial advisor Ben DeBach. Every episode of the Wise Money Show is on podcast. Wherever you listen, just search the Wise Money Show. Subscribe to it there. Rate the program there as well. That is helpful feedback to us. Last thing I'll mention is while we're talking about Social Security, all of that is just part of the 5 factors of your retirement. These are key decisions that you need to make that are all interrelated. So for help in taking your first step with doing that 5-factor retirement analysis, you can go to wisemoneyguides.com and download our helpful guide to get you started on some of those assumptions, and that'll help pave the way for you to work with your CFP and build out that stress test. So guys, before we get to the third most common question, we're talking about how is your Social Security calculated. Ben D was talking about the bend points in your Social Security, your earning history. And that led to, okay, if you're self-employed and can actually have some influence over the salary that you set, should you be aware of this?
I think absolutely, because as we just talked, if your income, your salary is really kind of less and less beneficial to Social Security, the higher it is, you really need to be working with a financial planner to say, how high should I set my salary so that it meets the IRS guidelines of it's fair and reasonable, but it's not so high that I'm kind of not getting much bang for my buck if my whole goal was to help my Social Security in the long run. So I absolutely, you need to be thinking about both. How is it helping me now tax-wise? How is it helping me in the future income and tax-wise? I think you got to have both.
Not to be mean, but there is a certain category of financial professional that a lot of small business owners will consult with. And we have heard time and again, I would say who
is the trusted advisor?
Yeah, the accountant. If the business owners aren't doing financial planning, aren't working with the CFP, they'll ask the accountant, well, how should I set my salary? And the accountant, I've heard this probably the majority of the time. You should set your salary at the Social Security wage limit so you can maximize your Social Security. That's probably over 50% of the time that's the answer that I hear.
And going back to when I started my career, the Social Security wage limit where you stopped paying was at $60,000. So the hustle was, all right, can I make over $60,000? Now it's $160,000, I think.
176. I think
Yeah.
this year.
No way.
Yeah.
When did they change it? Okay.
Every year.
Yeah. Keep going.
Speaking of something that changes every year, third question, I think one of the most common for sure in our top 10, can I work while I'm on Social Security? Kevin, you love to answer this in sort of a tongue-in-cheek way. Yeah, you can. You go out, earn as much as you want. The issue is if you earn too much while drawing Social Security before your full retirement age, then your Social Security could be penalized. Ben, explain it.
Yeah. So this is really dangerous. I've seen this happen a number of times with clients who didn't know this was coming and thought, oh my goodness, this will be great. I can have my ordinary job. Social Security is going to supplement that, and I'll just have some really strong income here while kind of a double dip in a sense. And then all of a sudden it comes, find this out. No, I have to hand back some of those dollars. In fact, it's $1 out of every $2 if you're early in your Social Security years. There is a jump where the year before your full retirement age, you only have to hand back $1 out of every $3. But that wage limit is not very high. For those early years, it's $23,000, $23,400, something like that.
Yep.
And then once you get up to that year before full retirement age, there's more grace there. You can earn close to $60,000, but it's still, you have to be really careful because, man, you could be handing back dollars that you thought were going to land in your pocket.
And that's where planning comes into play because you want to be thinking about what is my full retirement age. And your full retirement age is going to be based on the year in which you were born. Now, because we have lots of folks that work past their full retirement age, turn on Social Security, and it's not penalized or taken back at all, and then they'll use that for something. What do they want to use it for? Maybe I'm fully funding my 401k. Yep. Maybe I'm taking some of those trips that I want to take in retirement anyway. So there can be a use case to say once I hit full retirement age, turn it on. But usually where most people get tripped up by this that I've seen is they hit 62, they say, I have to retire. I'm so done. They retire, turn on Social Security, and within a year, their old job calls them, or the guy in the cubicle next to them that they worked with for 30 years calls and says, hey, I started this thing. You want to come work with me? And all of a sudden, now I'm working. I hadn't planned on it, knowing that if I make above 23, there's going to be some Social Security going back. Mm-hmm. And so, I encourage people, look, if you were going to do that side hustle and you're going to make $30,000, make $30,000. You're still money ahead. Yes, you had to give back some money, but you're money ahead.
Yeah. So we talked about why is this so important, making sure that we clarify and that you know these intricate details of Social Security so that you can plan appropriately, avoid costly claiming mistakes, and make great decisions. Planning appropriately. I'm thinking back earlier in my career, an individual or a couple came in and the plan was, and they weren't super convinced they needed to work with a certified financial planner. Mm-hmm. He had just turned 60. She was a couple years older than him. And the plan was he was working full time at the time, making about 80 grand. When he turned 62, he was going to shift down to part-time, only make 40, turn out his Social Security. That was going to be 20 grand and they were going to be fine. Had no idea that if he turned his income on at the time and still turned his Social Security on, was still making 40 grand, almost all of his Social Security was going to be penalized away. So yeah, working with your CFP, being aware of this unique rule. Fourth common question, and if you're a fan of the Wise Money Show, you know this one grinds my gears. Are Social Security benefits taxable?
Yes, they are, and not only that, it's a sliding scale. A lot of times, if you do the research on this one, like online, if you just type this in, you're going to get an answer that shows almost like these two kind of steps. So basically, what happens is, if you have earned income that's outside of Social Security, I like to call these anchor dollars that they start to drag your Social Security into your tax picture. And these numbers have not been updated since, is it the 80s? It's forever.
Since
right?
they became law.
I'm going to say like 1993, 94. One of the largest tax increases in the history of the world.
Stealth.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So even now, because Social Security benefits have kind of grown so large, if you and a spouse together have a lot of Social Security dollars, some of those might just get automatically dragged in because of that size. So we're at the point now where that's happening all the time, and it's this sliding scale. There's a pretty complicated form on the tax return that's used to figure this out. It's a mess, and I think I really can't stand it. It's one of those things when I talk to clients about it, we both get a little mad and kind of hot under the collar, but it is what it is. So you got to plan for it.
So the rough calculation, take all of your other income plus half of your Social Security. That's the math. All of your other income. So wait, does that mean IRA withdrawals? Yep. Does that mean interest from the CD or the bank account? Yep. Does it dividends, capital gains? Yep. Pension? Yep. All your other income plus half your Social Security. If you're single, as soon as that calculation gets above $25,000, then some of your Social Security starts flowing over to the taxable side. Married, filing jointly, you'd think, well, then if it's 25 for single, it'd be 50 married, filing joint. No, that would only make sense. And of course, they're not going to do that. It's 32,000. I mean, they didn't. I don't know how. Who comes up with that? Who made that decision?
The same guy that came up with 59.5 and 7.
And the same person who said, let's tax Social Security. Because not only that, you've been paying into Social Security through your FICA taxes. Your FICA taxes are not deductible. And when I make this argument a ton of times, there'll inevitably be someone leaving a comment saying, yeah, but your Social Security has grown. So therefore, when you get some of it back, it's not just your dollars. Prove it is what I would say. Prove it that you're not just giving me back my own money that I paid in, that I already paid tax on. So it's painful.
So one thing here, I actually view this as one of the biggest opportunities to talk to folks in their 20s and 30s about why planning is so powerful at that age. Because if you can start to set up your retirement accounts and how you are saving for the money that you're going to spend when you're 60s, 70s, 80s, and beyond, you actually can have control back then about what type of accounts they're in. So therefore, how is that going to potentially make your Social Security taxable or not taxable? Yep. And if you can pull those levers and set yourself up so you're in control of those levers at that retirement age, you can potentially save even more by not paying much or anything on Social Security.
We call that tax diversification. Right now, being intentional during your career about filling up different types of tax shelters, but then also strategies like qualified charitable distributions and other strategies early in retirement, Roth conversions. So being aware of all that. All right, we've got more coming up here on the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group.
Very good. Yeah, I know we got to keep moving, but I mean, I think the tax. So this idea of tax diversification, but really the tax planning and the optimization of what.
Yeah, let's touch it.
Okay.
I think you noticed in that segment where when you're talking like this and then when you talk like this, could you hear it? Yeah. So I know, like, I'll go back to what I said earlier, like, be as close to it as you can. And like, almost like, yeah, you can move it closer. Almost like, and I've done it many times. Like, is it cake?
And you wonder why do people wear the headphones? So you can hear.
Get the feedback.
Yeah. Yep. So we're trying to give you some feedback, man.
All right. So we'll pick that back up and then it's all right. We might need to hustle a bit.
We can hustle. I don't think there's anything. To me, I think that if you said what's the most important question, it's that.
Yeah. And the 3 of these next 6, I think, can be pretty quick answers.
Yeah,
short answers.
Let's do the quick answer.
Not a lot of planning. Anyway, a couple of these. So, all right, we'll pick back up with the taxation of Social Security. While it's wildly frustrating that Social Security is taxable, it does present a lot of proactive planning strategies, or really emphasizes the importance of proactive tax planning throughout your career. We're helping you answer the 10 most common Social Security questions right now. This is the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. Thanks for being here. My name is Mike Bernard. With me in the KFG studios, Kevin Korhorn, special guest Ben DeBach. Every episode of the Wise Money Show, as well as a lot of other content, is on the YouTube channel. Go to YouTube, search the Wise Money Show, subscribe to it there. Turn on notifications so you're aware every time we drop new content, whether that is a full talk show that you're listening to right now or our daily videos, Next Wise Step videos. Make sure you turn on notifications. If you like the content, you can leave questions there as well. We appreciate that. Go check out the Wise Money Show on YouTube. All right, hitting the 10 most common Social Security questions. And I don't know if we're going to get to all 10. No, we will hustle
for
it in.
sure.
One of the biggest, Kevin, you were just saying, is Social Security taxable? We've answered yes, but really it depends. It depends on a formula. All of your other income plus half your Social Security, if that exceeds some pretty low thresholds, 25,000 single, 32,000 joint, some of your Social Security starts coming over your tax return. We haven't mentioned yet, one of the most common source of confusion is, well, does that mean if my income's high enough, will all of my Social Security be taxable? No, but the majority will. 85%, up to 85% of your Social Security will be taxable. That does not mean that the tax is 85%. Just 85 cents of every dollar will become taxable. Why we're emphasizing this is we left off on Ben talking about how you need to be planful, Kevin's favorite word, about your tax strategies all along the way during your career so that you have choice and options by the time you're in retirement as to, well, I need to supplement my Social Security. Where do I do that from? That's going to influence how much tax you pay on your Social Security.
Right. But then when you get to retirement, what you want to do is optimize and have a tax plan, because I don't have to pay tax on my Social Security if my income is low enough. Most people aren't shooting for that. They're saying, no, I want to have plenty of retirement income. So in the event that I'm doing that, how do I optimize, and where are the thresholds where the taxation of my Social Security begins? Where are the thresholds where the taxation of my federal income tax begins? Because we talked about the limits, the 25. If I'm single, it starts at 25, and if I'm married, it starts at 32. Those numbers haven't changed since 1993. Now, there's talk in the big, beautiful bill, and who knows by the time this show airs what will have happened, but there's talk about moving those thresholds to 50 and 100. There was talk during the campaign about doing away with Social Security taxation altogether. I don't really see that happening because of the even bigger hole that would blow in the deficit. So if those happened, the first thing that you'd want to do is talk to your tax planner. And if all you have is a tax preparer, find a planner and make sure they're certified and have them help you and say, where is the optimal point for me to get my income to? And a lot of people don't understand the control they have over their income.
Yeah, and I think that one of the cool things here is you shouldn't just be optimizing for one single year. You could be looking for 3, 5, 10 years down the road, because if I'm already going to be taxed fully, quote unquote, 85% of my Social Security, then maybe that's the year to actually take it even higher so that I have a few years where I can have no taxation of my Social Security. Yeah. So you need to be looking at a multi-year tax projection. And that's something that we specialize in because we want to help you optimize not for a single year, but for the rest of your lifetime.
That's right.
Right. So you say I'm paying tax on 85% of the Social Security that I'm receiving, but I still could pay tax on a good chunk more dollars and not get into the next tax bracket.
Yep, that's right.
Yep.
We are geeks, but this is real. This helps ensure more of your wealth stays in your pocket for your retirement, for your family, for your heirs, as opposed to having it slip through your fingers to Uncle Sam. All right, we need to keep moving here. Question number 5: can my spouse claim Social Security off of my work history? And one of the most glaring examples of, you might know this answer, but where not everyone does, is I remember working for about a decade with very astute clients and very aware financially, and they were not aware of this. And when I showed it to them in their projection, they said, "No, really? That's how that works?" So the answer is yes.
Yeah, I would probably say maybe, because the way it works now is something called deemed filing, which basically means, hey, if only one spouse was the primary breadwinner for most of their working years, then yes, that other spouse can claim off of that spouse's work history. However, if both spouses were working throughout the whole time, then maybe their benefit actually shows that, hey, I qualify for a better income, a better Social Security benefit on my own than my spouse's. And in that case, it's deemed that you would take the better of the two benefits, which would be your own. So in that case, you could say, okay, maybe there's you're getting a little nuanced there, but in general, the answer is yes, but they're always going to look for what's better for you based on that situation.
So essentially, it's not you get yours or your spouse's. You get yours or half of your spouse's. And the other tricky part of that, whichever is better. So they're going to optimize automatically for you, but you need to be aware of that. But how does that? What influences that? Well, if your spouse claims early, then it's half of a lower number. If you claim early, half of a lower number. If you delay or your spouse delays, you can't start drawing off of their Social Security until they're actually on Social Security. And then if they decide to delay past their full retirement age, the maximum amount that you can get is up to half of their full retirement age amount. See, a lot of people say, no, I'm waiting until 70, and my spouse is going to wait till 72. Now, if they're going to draw off of yours, they're going to get half of your full retirement age amount, even if you delay until 70. So lots of choices.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think the most surprising thing, though, is where you have one breadwinner who's worked outside the home and one who's not worked outside the home.
Yep.
And they will get half of the primary breadwinners. But if they don't have 40 credits, they can't get anything until the primary breadwinner actually claims.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Yep. Next question. What happens if my spouse passes away? What happens if I was married and my spouse passes away?
Yeah. So if that happens, you are able to claim off of your spouse's benefit. So once again, this goes back to that deemed filing. So whose is better, yours or your spouse's? But if your spouse passes away and they had the higher benefit, you get to switch to that higher benefit. One key thing here, though, I've seen mistaken is folks think, do I get both of them now? Right. Like, do I get to add mine and my spouse's? No. You only get one benefit. It's just you get to have the bigger and better benefit, which is great.
Yep. There is an advanced planning strategy here in a survivor situation for a surviving spouse. And one of the, Kevin, when we started our career, there were some pretty sophisticated, people would call them loopholes, but claiming strategies with Social Security that have essentially been closed up. I think it was early on in your career they were still available, Ben, but maybe they were just starting to close them. And one of them is called a restricted application, where you could get a benefit off of a spouse. And so you say, I want to file for Social Security, but listen, I don't want you to even look at mine. Don't deem me. I don't want you to look at mine. I'm going to restrict my application to just file based on my spouse's earning history. And they would let you do that and no longer, except if you're a surviving spouse. You can file a restricted application as early as age 60. So this goes back to that first question where Ben was trying to trick us and say, you can claim Social Security at 0. There actually are a lot more ages that you can claim Social Security at in surviving spouse, age 60, if you're doing a restricted application just based off of your widowed or your deceased spouse. And in that instance, you'd say, well, what's the benefit? Just that I get to draw a reduced benefit at 60? Yeah, but also your own Social Security continues to grow.
Right. Yeah, that benefit continues to grow kind of in the shadows, if you will. And so this is one of those few leftover things where you could say, hey, let's calculate what that's going to be at age 70. I'm going to take this survivor benefit for those number of years and then switch back to my benefit at that point and then be able to use that for the rest of my life. If you don't know that, or if you haven't explored that or talked through what that is, that could be, over your lifetime, that could be tens of thousands of dollars left on the table.
And that's if your spouse passes away either late in their career or before retirement. If your spouse passes away later in retirement or in retirement, then because you get the higher of the two, you don't get both, you get the higher of the two. That's where deciding to maybe delay Social Security a little bit could make a lot of sense when you're thinking about that survivor benefit as well. All of this points back to planning, proactively planning, looking at all of your choices, seeing which one is best for you. All right, we've got more coming up here on the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group.
Gotcha. I almost jumped in.
Yeah, gotcha.
But that is the big idea, is to get one of the benefits as big as you can, if that's possible. Mm-hmm. And it's not always possible, but if that's possible.
Yeah. I had some folks this past week that that's what we're doing. We're taking hers just pretty early at 62 because they're both retired now at 60 and 61 and 62. And they're just going to use hers as a helpful piece to kind of help with the cash flow for now.
Yep.
And it's not optimized mathematically, but it's optimized for their situation.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes that's a difference in
Yeah.
the two.
I think my plan is to wait till 70, and then Lori draws at 67. She's 3 years younger than me. And so you say, well, my number got as big as it could possibly be.
Yep.
And she will outlive me.
Yep.
She'll get the bigger number.
All right. So we've got to answer 4 of them in one segment. We can do it. So just probably.
For this next one, I am going to say something about a question that I had from a coworker about an ex cannot access your earnings record.
Right.
So,
Yep. Couple.
They cannot.
correct. They can verify that they're eligible for a benefit, but they can't go and see what you earned.
I mean, that's one of the common questions. The other one is, could my ex-spouse take my Social Security? If they draw off of my own, will that limit and reduce mine? And
No, because we have unlimited dollars.
that's right. All right, 4th segment, land on the plane. There we go. Thanks for being here. This is the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. My name is Mike Bernard. With me in the KFG studios, Kevin Korhorn, special guest Ben DeBach. Stay up to date on all Wise Money content. Find us online, wisemoneyshow.com. Then all over social media, wherever you're at, we are there as well. Search the Wise Money Show, answering the 10 most common questions about Social Security to help you with your planning. Social Security, you want to be able to optimize it for your unique, specific financial situation. Most people claim Social Security as early as they possibly can, and I get all the emotions around that. But if they don't do that, they often see, okay, well, when did my friend draw it? I guess it was right for them, so I'll draw at the same time as them. Your financial situation is wildly unique. From the surface, you might look similar to your neighbor or your best friend. Underneath the surface, your finances are secret. You have no idea how different you are. You need to expose those secrets to a trusted advisor, have them, as a fiduciary, have them plan and craft different strategies for you, stress test the right way to draw Social Security. Your CFP can help you with that. Take your first step. You can reach out to us or wisemoneyguides.com. Get started filling out that 5-factor retirement guide. All right, talking about 10 most common questions for Social Security. What if I get divorced? This is question 7. Can I still claim off of my ex-spouse? But then there's a lot of other kind of fractured questions here. If my ex-spouse draws off of my record, is that going to reduce, or could they take my Social Security?
Yeah. In honor of Josh Gregory, I'm going to answer this question with potentially. So what we're looking at here is, if you're divorced, you may be able to draw off your ex-spouse, but there are some rules. You had to have been married for 10 years. And if you were divorced for less than 2 years, you may have some other complications in there as well. But the basic answer is yes. As long as you meet that check mark, you can. And what you're looking at there is, people are worried about, well, then can my ex-spouse know what my new earnings are? Can they see all this stuff? No, they can know if they're eligible for that ex-spousal benefit, but they can't access your returns or records. They can't see, everything that happened in your taxes over since things have been separated.
And then if your ex-spouse does draw, if it's best for them to draw based off of your earnings history, it does not change your benefit. Their ex-spouse cannot take your Social Security from you. If there were finite dollars, by the way, there are, then maybe that would be the case. But with Social Security, it's your ex-spouse drawing off of your earnings record doesn't influence your benefit at all. It's a logical question, but you're all set. Question number 8, how do I apply for Social Security? And this one has, I'd say, changed a little bit over the past decade.
Yeah, I've actually helped a number of folks here in the past 3 months do this, and I'm actually migrating towards recommending that they apply online.
Yeah,
Yes.
me too.
Social Security has gotten surprisingly better with their online presence and how you go about this. If you go to their SSA.gov, log in, take a look right there, you can apply right online. And I walked through this with some family members recently. it's pretty straightforward. Now, you can still go in person, schedule a time to go to the Social Security office and meet with somebody. And I actually did have a scenario where a married couple, one of the spouses was able to really easily flow through this, and the second one, they were having some issues. So they scheduled an appointment to get it figured out. So it may be a combination of both, but in general, I'm pointing people towards applying online.
Yeah, I think that by far is the easiest. I mean, you can do it over the phone, you can do it in person, but online, I was working with some clients, and she needed to go into her office. We were meeting in their place of business, and so the advisor that was working with me followed her, and by the time she came back, I'd worked with the husband and applied for Social Security, and because he'd been retired for 2 years, and she'd been asking him to apply for Social Security, and he just never did. He wasn't tech savvy, and it didn't make a lot of sense to him. So I said, look, we can do this thing. So we sat down, and it did. It took about 20 minutes to get done, and when she came back, you're not going to believe this, but instead of being happy that we got it done, she was disappointed that it took 2 years.
Okay, let me ask you guys, because this is one of the things that grinds my gears. We already talked about. It's one of the most common questions. During that application process, was there a question that said, would you like to withhold taxes from your Social Security?
No.
There was not. They act as if it's not taxable. You don't even have an option to withhold taxes when you're signing up. In order to do that, you need to fill out a form after the fact. I think it's an SS-44 form, I believe is what it is. And you say, yes, I do want to withhold 7% or 12% or some bizarre numbers. But anyway, yeah, going online, easiest way. Question 9, can I change my benefits after I start? Kevin, you were already sort of going there earlier when we were talking about can you work and draw Social Security? And in the instance where, yeah, I'm ready to be done. I retire, I'm drawing Social Security, and then a year later you either miss work, you get an offer you can't refuse, or something. Can you pause your benefits, or are you just stuck paying the penalty?
Yeah, great question. So I actually had this with clients this past fall. We started doing planning together, and we found out that the wife had turned on her Social Security benefit about 10 months prior. And we decided through planning that this is not the best use of your Social Security or timing for your Social Security. And I was able to convince them, hey, this is going to be a little bit painful, but we're going to undo that. We're going to withdraw your application. And as long as that's within 12 months of when you started and you're willing to pay it all back, then you get a one-time undo button in a sense. And so we were able to do that. And now we're letting her Social Security grow over the next number of years because her husband's still working. So
yeah, if we were going to make a list of things to not do before you start working with your financial advisor, don't sell your company stock in your 401k, and don't turn on the faucet for Social Security. Because a lot of times people, when they're getting ready to start working with an advisor, maybe they never have, or they haven't worked with an advisor that does financial planning, and they think, all right, I need to do something before I go see my advisor. Don't do anything. Don't do anything. It's like, do I move someone with a neck injury? Nope, don't move them. Wait until EMS gets there, and then let them get stabilized, and then go.
I get the concern, though. I think a lot of people are going to say, well, if I go see a financial advisor, I want to draw Social Security immediately. They're going to tell me I need to delay, so I better do this first. No, working with the right advisor who's a fiduciary, they want what's best for you. They want what, and even if they do the math and they show you, hey, I think in your specific situation, you might want to delay a little bit. If you say, you know what, I really need to draw it right away, great, okay, plan B. And quick, SS-44, that's the IRMA appeal. So it's actually W-4V is the form if you want to withhold tax on your Social Security. Either way, far more complicated than it needs to be.
And it's ridiculous because you only have 4 withholding options.
Yep.
7, 10, 12, or 22%. Who picked those?
Yeah. Granddaddy of them all. Question number 10, will Social Security run out of money?
My answer is yes. We don't know if that's 9, 90, or 900 years from now, but I do think all good things come to an end, and you could argue, is this a good thing? But yes. But I think part of it is financial planning always points us to the fact that we can't save ourselves. Social Security can't save us, right? So we're called to be good stewards of what we have. And I think in light of that, we have to say, hey, Social Security, if it's going to run out at some point, how can I insulate myself as much as possible from this program? How can I make it a part of my long-term financial plan, but a minimal part? That may not be possible for you. And so some of this we're going to trust in others to hopefully make good decisions that help extend and keep people out of dire poverty in the future. But I do think that we're going to control what you can control and know that in the long-term picture, other people's social plans are not going to save you.
Yeah, I mean, there's been entitlement reform needed, and I don't see that happening until there's a dire emergency. There's been some tinkering on the margins, but not meaningful reform. And when I started in 1994, I had people that came in and said, listen, I want to show me a financial plan without Social Security because it's not going to be there for me. I'm retiring in 3 years. And it's still there.
Yeah. We are on a path towards insolvency 9 years from now. That's what Ben was referencing. Insolvency, it doesn't mean that your Social Security, if there isn't reform or politicians are still fighting over this, squabbling over it, it doesn't mean that your Social Security would go to zero. It would just drop to the current funding level, which I've seen estimated at 82%, 80%, and I just saw it estimated at 78%. So if you do want to stress test, look at, well, what would my retirement look like, or what adjustments, what trade-offs would I need to make if my Social Security, if I only got 78% of what it currently says I will be able to get. And Ben, you're absolutely right. Will Social Security run out? I'm assuming at some point. Will there be the political will to make the changes necessary to keep it around longer, beyond 5 years? I hope so. I think so. If not, economically, it will be very, very difficult. But you need to be planning ahead and not just hoping and that someone else will solve this issue. Plan ahead, optimize Social Security, project out your retirement, save the necessary approach, and have a confident retirement plan. That's all the time we have for today. On behalf of Kevin Korhorn, Ben DeBach, all of us at KFG, have a great weekend. We'll see you next Saturday for the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group.
Securities offered through Silver Oak Securities, member FINRA/SIPC. Advisory services offered through KFG Wealth Management, LLC. Doing business as Korhorn Financial Group. KFG Wealth Management, LLC and Silver Oak Securities Incorporated companies are unaffiliated.